Cleopatra's early life. Over 2,000 years ago, in 69 BCE, a baby girl was born in the great city of Alexandria, Egypt. Her name was Cleopatra, and one day she would become one of the most legendary queens in history. But before the crown, before the power, she was simply a curious little girl with dreams bigger than the palace walls around her. Cleopatra belonged to the Ptolemaic dynasty, a royal family that came from Greece but ruled Egypt for many generations. Her ancestor, Ptolemy I, had once served as a general for Alexander the Great, and after Alexander's death, he claimed Egypt as his kingdom. So Cleopatra grew up in a world that was part Greek and part Egyptian. Her childhood seemed luxurious, servants, fine clothes, and the best teachers. But life inside the royal family was never safe. Brothers, sisters, even parents often fought each other for the throne. From a young age, Cleopatra learned that survival required not just wealth, but knowledge. While many women of her time were not educated, Cleopatra studied eagerly. She learned languages, Greek, Latin, Egyptian, even Hebrew, and it is said she spoke at least 7 fluently. She also explored subjects like science, literature, politics, and mathematics. More than anything, she wanted to be more than just a figure in a crown. She wanted to be a wise and powerful leader. Her intelligence, her charm, and her fierce love for Egypt would one day set her apart, shaping the destiny of a queen who was unforgettable. Chapter 2. Cleopatra becomes queen. When Cleopatra was just 18 years old, her father, King Ptolemy XII, passed away. In his will, he declared that Cleopatra would inherit the throne, but she would not rule alone. According to tradition, she had to share her crown with her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII, who was only 10 years old. In ancient Egypt, it was common for siblings to co-rule, and sometimes even to marry, in order to strengthen their claim to power. At first, Cleopatra tried to work alongside her brother. She was determined to protect Egypt and guide it with wisdom. But it didn't take long before powerful advisors around the young boy began to plot against her. They feared Cleopatra's intelligence and independence. To them, a strong woman on the throne was dangerous because she could not be easily controlled. They wanted Ptolemy XIII to hold the power, as he was just a child. Cleopatra soon found herself in danger. Betrayed by her own court, she was forced to flee the royal palace. Imagine the rightful queen of Egypt wandering the desert with only a handful of loyal followers by her side. She had no army, no home, and no throne. But Cleopatra was not a woman who gave up. She began to think of a plan to reclaim what was hers. At that very moment, Rome, the most powerful empire in the world, was sending one of its greatest generals to Egypt, Julius Caesar. Cleopatra realized that if she could win his support, she might have a chance to defeat her enemies. But how could she meet him when her brother's advisors would surely stop her? Cleopatra came up with a bold idea. One night, she had herself secretly wrapped in a large carpet and delivered to Caesar's quarters as a gift. When the carpet was unrolled, Cleopatra appeared, confident, radiant, and unafraid. Caesar was astonished. He saw not just a beautiful woman, but a queen with extraordinary courage and charm. Their alliance changed everything. With Caesar's help, Cleopatra defeated her brother's forces and returned to the throne. She was no longer just a girl with dreams. She was the undisputed Queen of Egypt. Chapter 3. Cleopatra and Julius Caesar. With the help of Julius Caesar, Cleopatra regained her throne. At only 21 years old, she was now the most powerful person in Egypt. But her story was far from peaceful. What began as a political alliance with Caesar soon grew into one of the most famous relationships in history, filled with love, ambition, and danger. After defeating her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII, Cleopatra invited Caesar to stay in Egypt. Together, they sailed along the Nile, visited temples, and spoke about the future of the kingdom. Cleopatra admired Caesar's wisdom and his ability to command armies. Caesar, in turn, was captivated by Cleopatra's intelligence, confidence, and charm. Though Caesar was more than 30 years older, their bond was undeniable. In 47 BCE, Cleopatra gave birth to a son named Ptolemy Caesar, whom people called Caesarion, or Little Caesar. To Cleopatra, this child was not only her beloved son, but also a symbol of unity between Egypt and Rome. She dreamed that one day he would rule a great empire stretching across both lands. But their happiness came at a cost. In Rome, whispers began to spread. Many Romans disliked the idea of their great general being enchanted by a foreign queen. They accused Cleopatra of being manipulative and dangerous. Yet Caesar continued to support her. He even invited her to Rome, and Cleopatra made a dramatic entrance, arriving with her son, her entourage, and the wealth of Egypt. In Rome, Cleopatra lived in a luxurious villa near Caesar's estate. She attended banquets, met senators, and influenced fashion with her Egyptian style. To some, she was fascinating. To others, she was a threat. Roman women envied her confidence, and Roman politicians feared her growing influence over Caesar. Then, in 44 BCE, tragedy struck. Caesar was assassinated in the Senate by men who feared his power. Cleopatra was devastated. She had lost not only her greatest ally, but also the father of her child. Without protection, Rome became dangerous for her. She quickly gathered her son, her treasures, and her loyal servants and returned to Egypt. Back home, Cleopatra mourned, but refused to surrender to despair. She strengthened her army, improved the economy, and prepared for the challenges ahead. Even after losing Caesar, she remained determined to protect her throne, her son, and her beloved Egypt. Chapter 4. Cleopatra and Mark Antony. After the death of Julius Caesar, Rome was thrown into chaos. Many powerful men fought for control of the empire. Among them was Mark Antony, a brave soldier, a skilled leader, and one of the most respected generals of his time. Cleopatra knew that if Egypt was to survive, she needed a strong ally in Rome. Mark Antony had already heard stories of the Queen of Egypt, her intelligence, her beauty, and her boldness. When he invited Cleopatra to meet him in the city of Tarsus, she planned an entrance that would never be forgotten. She sailed up the river on a golden ship with silver oars and purple sails. Dressed as the goddess Aphrodite, surrounded by attendants dressed as gods, Cleopatra dazzled everyone who saw her. Antony was captivated. Cleopatra spoke with charm and wit, and soon he found himself completely enchanted. Their meeting marked the beginning of one of history's most famous